Today I have to do some repairs on my lawnmower. When it is working, it cuts really good, but I'm having an issue where the belt for the deck falls off like every 5 minutes. It's very annoying. It's not a huge deal, but really slows things down. And I think that the problem is this deck. I knew it had a little rust, but actually it's worse than I thought it was. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see right now. I'm going to pull the deck off. But right here, you can kind of see it's basically this bracket is mounted to the frame of the tractor. And that's here, and it's ripped right along here. It's the same on the other side. Goes all the way back. You can't see under here right now, but this is the center blade spindle right there, and right behind it, right here, is the drive pulley from the gearbox. Now, they're mounted, drive pulley's mounted on this black frame, and the spindle is mounted to the deck. What I think is happening is that because this is broken here, I think this center pulley flexes when the deck, goes over uneven ground. And because those two pulleys are so close to each other, I think it throws that belt off. So my plan is I'm going to take this out and clean it up really good, top and bottom. And then I'm going to see if I can weld on a plate to strengthen that area and stiffen the deck up, and hopefully that will fix it. I think I've got this thing like half cleaned, half taken apart, but I wanted to show you I think what's happening here. And this is a little bit extreme because there's these bolts here that you can see. I've got this one out, I've got these two taken out, but I think this shows pretty good what I think is happening. So so you can see like this attaches to the tractor up here, which is bolted right to this plate, which is where the gearbox is mounted, the drive pulley there. So let's see if I can do this. If I pick up on here, you can see, again, this is a lot worse than in real life, but you can kind of see a little flexing at that crack there, and there's flexing there, so it's cracked over here, and I think it's just getting those two pulleys enough out of alignment where the belt just pops off. So let me get this apart and actually cleaned up, and then we'll see what we're dealing with. All right, this gives you a much better view of our problems. I knew about this rust up in here when I bought the thing, but I didn't realize it was quite so extensive, and didn't realize that the mounts were basically ripped out of the deck. These look like probably stress cracks here. Obviously this is just, rust from having wet grass on it or whatever, but so if I grab this mount, I mean, you can see this is all over the place. That deck is just flexing. So really I need to really stiffen up this whole front area, and I think maybe my best bet is gonna be if I can cut a plate that I weld on, maybe on the bottom from like here area, a flat plate to mount to basically this plane, but basically going from over here to over here, and then I bolt this straight through the new plate. And let's see, maybe if I might figure out how to get these mounts bolted into the new plate as well, or maybe I don't know, have to think about that one a little bit. I thought I might have some material. I just went through my scrap bin and I've got some angle iron and some flat stock, and I was thinking maybe I could, you know, work something up with this and not have to buy material, but I think this is a little more extensive than what my material can support. But I'm gonna flip this over, clean it off good on the bottom, and make sure that there's nothing else we need to worry about. The bottom of the deck really wasn't too bad. There's some spots where, I'm guessing from previous owner, you know, there was some really caked on, like almost mud. But it wasn't too dirty under here. But you can see what we're dealing with. This whole section is all gone. This right here, this is the tensioner pulley is under there on the other side. I'm not too worried about that yet, but there is, you can see it's cracked going up, and this crack comes over, so this whole section definitely is weak. But I think it's pretty solid over here. It's pretty solid over here. I might basically go from that hole, get a plate to come up to here, and then over and to that plate. I'll weld it along here, and then I will bolt. Here's the 2 bolts for that bracket and 2 bolts for that bracket. Bolt those right through, and I'll also, I think I'll weld along this right here to try to keep everything in line. Once I have that in place, I may weld some angle iron to it on the bottom side to basically, can't see, basically make this corner so that these brackets here, I don't know if you can see those, so I can bolt those to the angle iron. Basically that'll keep this whole frame in place. I mean, you can see tons of flex. Basically, you know, the 2 halves are not connected to each other right now, so we need to fix that. Alright, so now we can set this down out of the way. Yeah. Alright, we might take that off because it's just going to be a problem. I'll undo the linkage at the back and just pull that whole thing right off. This side just comes right out. And push that pin out. That's done there. This side I've got a different pin. I'll probably replace this one. Go. Pull that out. And this whole bracket should come right off. There we go. Yep. Get that out of the way. Using my cardboard aided design machine here. Got this cut as a template. Basically, I'll do 2 of these. I got to check the angle, but I'll weld it all along this inside edge, and on this outside edge. And up here where I can, see there's a crack there, but that'll, I think, you know, hold this together pretty well. And then there'll be a piece of angle iron, 2-inch angle iron that I weld in this edge to catch these holes up here. I'm not yet sure how I'm going to hold everything in the right position because, you know, this can move quite a bit. And I don't have like really any flat surface or huge clamps or anything, so I'll have to figure that out. So I've got my template. I'm actually gonna leave the steel as long as possible, but this was just what I had for cardboard. This is the critical junction here. So I'm going to take this apart. I've marked the middle of my piece of steel. I'm going to line this up, and my plan, because this is the same angle, I'm going to do one and I'm going to flip it. So I have to basically figure out, I get the middle of here, right on the middle of the steel, and I'll be able to maximize the length of each piece. It's a little hard to explain. I'll show you as I get there. Okay, so hopefully this makes more sense. I've marked, I put a mark on the cardboard at the center distance here, and I've lined that up with my center line on the steel, and I've set this edge, straight edge, along this edge of the steel up here. And then, so that'll allow me, I'll trace out this one, and then I'll take this piece and I'll flip it over, still lining the center up on that line, but it'll be basically upside down, and that'll get me, you know, you can see like an extra basically inch of material in length. I've got my steel marked, so basically I'm going to trim this edge off all the way, and then I'm going to cut this diagonal line. We'll just nip the corners off, and I'll have my two pieces. Now I don't have a plasma cutter or like a vertical bandsaw or a sheet metal brake or anything like that. So I'm gonna try a jigsaw and hopefully not hurt anybody or anything. Well, that wasn't the most efficient, but it was effective. Got it cut. There's the scrap. So get this sliced up. Well, there we are. Say that pretty closely resembles my template. I'm going to kind of hold these into the mowing deck and see how it fits, and then I think what I'll do is I'm going to weld the two pieces together here on the table, right down this center seam, trying to keep it flat, and then I'll put this whole piece into the mowing deck. So that's how it's going to be. And I'll weld along here, along both sides. I may trim these a little narrower so that they sit down on here better. They're just a little bit tall, and there's like a pretty good gap there, but the thing is that this is all bent so much that I don't know what's I don't know what is the good surface, but I think if I trim maybe a 1/4 inch off of this edge, it'll sit down there, you know, a little flatter, maybe cut 3/8 or even a 1/2. But the thing is, I don't want to cut too much because there's this crack right here. So I really need it to sit, you know, right up here. So I'm going to play with this a little bit. I might have to fine tune. with those 4 tacks, hopefully this is where I want it, but I can always grind them out if I need to. So I'm gonna give that a look, you know, flip it over and make sure everything looks okay, and then I'll work on getting this fully welded in. I'm just kind of checking out my placement with this plate just being spot welded in there, and I think I'm pretty happy with it. One thing I did notice on this side, you can see where my spot weld started to burn through the paint on this side. It's right on my my chart for the belt placement and part numbers and everything, so I took a picture of that just so I have it in case that gets destroyed. But other than that, I'm pretty happy. One thing, so you can see, like, in the new plates in here, and this is all gonna be all flimsy until I kind of bolt this all up. I am a little worried about moisture, grass and whatnot getting stuck between here and the new plate that I'm putting in. And so ideally I would probably cut out a lot of this, and I may still do that, but I'm gonna leave these holes, everything in place, so that I can use these as a guide to drill my new holes in the new plate. After that's done, I'll evaluate it. I may cut out, you know, a lot of this broken, you know, metal just with a cutoff tool or something, just to kind of get it out of the way and have less here. But for now, I'm going to leave it all in place just so that I know how to put it all back together. But yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with it. I'm gonna weld that up. Basically, this is kind of thin. You can see there's a little spot there where I kind of blew through already. I got the welder turned down a lot, but so basically just gonna do like a whole bunch of tacks all the way around this, and I think that should be good enough. Doesn't need to be fully welded. Wait for the deck to cool down until I can touch it and see if it's okay. I'm going to sharpen the blades since that needs to be done too. Just kind of evens it up a little bit. Might do a little bit more there. That one's pretty good. All right, I flipped it over. I think it looks okay. I don't know. Those welds, some of those welds are definitely not the strongest. This steel is really not great. You can see a couple spots where I like blew through and they made like a weld stalactite on the bottom. So I gotta grind those down, but I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drill my holes and mount the bracket up. I've already pre-punched the center of each of these holes in the steel below. So I'm drilling with a 3/16 and then I'll drill with a 3/8 after. You could also use a step drill bit. I don't have one here, so I'm doing this. I prefer to use a step drill bit, but this will work. All right, here's the 3/8. There we go. Let's see if this will bolt up. I just realized I'm going to need my longer bolts. Alright, so I got this bracket halfway bolted up. The front bolts here aren't on, but I wanted to see how it goes. It fit just fine. There's still flex, I can twist that. You can see the deck kind of, want to come together, and that's just because the plate that I welded in is 16 gauge. It's not that thick, and that's bending a little bit. If I had been able to get 1/8 inch plate, I would have done that, but I couldn't get it today, and I need this done today. So I think what I'm going to try to do, I have a couple options. I did buy some 1/8 inch thick 2-inch angle iron. This is not it, but it's an example. And one thing I could do on the inside, basically weld a piece like here and weld them together in the right plane. That would definitely work, but it's going to be a fair amount of fabrication. Another thing I could do is on the inside, but basically put a piece of flat bar between these holes here and these holes here to kind of pull these into the same plane. That's not going to be as strong, but it may work. But what I want to try before I do any of that, I want to put the plate on that holds the gearbox, because that bolts here and here. And I think that plate's pretty stiff. I think it's going to actually hold this in the right position. And so I'm going to test that out, and then we'll see how it goes. Alright, I've got this top plate temporarily bolted in. It's not even attached in the back side, but I just want to get these front ones. And pretty much all the flex is gone. That's a lot better than it was. The other thing, let's see if I can get this up without... Get the... As you can see, the drive pulley and that middle blade spindle are just about the exact same height. They're right in line, which is perfect, and I couldn't get either of them to move. So I think I'm going to leave this as it is, test it out. If I'm still having trouble with the blade falling off, or I mean the belt falling off, I'll do further reinforcements, but I think I'm just going to stick with this for now. I'm actually going to pull that plate back off, shoot everything with a coat of paint just to kind of keep the rust at bay, and then I go to put it all back together, put it under the tractor, and I'll give it a test. All right, I'm going to declare mostly victory. I just did this little section over here, which there's a ton of rocks buried. We think there used to be a structure here, like an ice house or something. You can see all these rocks in the grass. Most of them you can make it over, but it's just brutal. You know, go real slow, but the belt would always fall off over here like a dozen times going over this stuff. Today made it through everything without it falling off a single time. I also, with the fresh sharp blades, was able to go pretty quick and cut this. It looks good, so I think I'm pretty happy with that. Before I put the belt covers on, I want to mow the entire lawn without getting off to fix the belt. Once I do that, I'm putting the covers on and I'm going to call it done. All right, I just mowed the whole lawn in a little over an hour and a half. Previously, before I fixed this, I was spending 2 to 3 hours, and a lot of that time was on my hands and knees putting the belt back on. The belt did not fall off a single time, and I was able to go much faster because I wasn't worried about the belt falling off. And I sharpened the blades, and so it cut nice even at higher speeds. I'm gonna clean this all out, hose it down, get the covers back on there so you know this grass doesn't sit in the belts. But yeah, I'm pretty happy. That was a good fix, and I think I'm more enthusiastic about keeping this tractor now.